Hello and welcome to another episode of A Less Is More. We are ticking through these very nicely at the moment, one a month for the rest of 2021, and we'll get kick-started into a big adventure in 2022. But today I wanted to do a special episode on something that means quite a lot to me and to many other people around the world. It is 45 years since the first debut of the movie Rocky. The character Rocky Balboa was born thanks to the icon himself, the action star Sylvester Stallone. And 45 years on, it's still making a massive impact in today's society. And since 1976, when it came out on November 22nd, it became such an icon. And we know it's an Oscar-winning movie. We know Stallone played the role perfectly, and the story behind Rocky needs to be appreciated a lot more. And Stallone's told it a lot of times since its inaugural debut, as I said, 45 years ago. But also today I wanted to talk about how important it has become for myself and a lot of people in their battles and in people that are doing the gym or in sport, and the massive iconic speeches that he's given us on screen that have helped us live our lives off screen. And I'll dive into all of that and how much of an impact that makes. And also I'm going to rank all the Rocky movies today. We know the Creeds have come out as well, and it's just been an amazing story that's been told 8 times now, 6 Rocky movies and 2 Creed movies. And the story that Rocky possesses is something that's purely iconic. It's one of the best movie franchises, if not the best, to ever be made. And that's all about opinion, but I must say that it is quite phenomenal. The story that Stallone has told, and we know from the beginning, and I've listened to his interviews, I know the story back to front myself, like he's told it that many times, but he's happy to tell it, and I think that's something to be even more proud. If you're happy enough to get asked a question about the story of the original, of how it was built, and he's happily doing that every single time he's asked the question. And I think overall it's been such an impactful story to many of us that we've seen Rocky stories come along even today in the 21st century. So a massive, as I said, a massive story, an impactful story. And we know that it's happened. He went and wrote it in 3 days. He was able to come up with a rough idea of what the movie structure would be like, presented it, and MGM and the production company, they all said, yeah, love it, we'll give you this X amount of money and you can have your credit in it and that could be your story. And he's like, no, I'm going to risk it, and I want to be in the movie. I want to be the main character. And countless amount of meetings that he had, and trying to, he fended off so many deals and so many offers that he stuck to his story and said, I want to be a part of this movie. This is my movie, my baby, and I'm going to be running the show. And basically since then, what could have been, I think, roughly around $300,000 he could have ended up having from Rocky, from one movie story, he's ended up creating one of the biggest franchises, continually makes money, continually showed on TV. The iconic speeches are showed everywhere, and as well, it's such a story that everyone can relate to. We're all underdogs. We're all people that go through daily routines, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen that day. And you just fight for your moment, and that's what the Rocky story is you're getting your moment, you're taking that opportunity, and you go to the distance. Like, it's not so much about winning, it's about going the distance, being able to achieve something that you set your sights on. And he did that, and he did that within the movie, he did that on screen, and to get the story off and running with MGM, and to create the story, make the movie. He was given 29 days to make the movie on a budget less than $1 million. If you're given 29 days to make a movie today with less than $1 million, it's going to look like a home video. But Stallone did it. They created the moving can, the running on the steps, and you can see that type of camera angle was never used in those days. And the iconic running on the steps, that is a bucket list item of mine. If there's one thing I want to do before I get too old and can't do it, is to run up the Rocky Steps. Like, that is such an iconic thing in Philadelphia, that so many people that do travel to America, all around the world, the one thing they do is the iconic Rocky Steps. They run up and they jump and they act like they're boxing, and some people do some shadow boxing, push-ups on the steps, and they've got the iconic Rocky picture there. They've also got the statue, the Rocky statue, sitting right next to the steps, and people take photos next to it, and that's how iconic it is. That's how special Rocky is to people in Philadelphia, because it's put them on the map. And to have a statue of a fictional character in front of your museum, the museum that's there, is absolutely groundbreaking. Like, no other person can possibly do that with such an impact on a city and for people around the world. To have your own statue that's not even of you, that's of Rocky Balboa, that's insane. And that's what I'm saying, like 45 years of this iconic character. I'm 25 years old, and I've got a statue, the picture of the first ever Rocky movie with the credits on it, the iconic picture of him on the steps looking out over Philadelphia. That's how much it means to people that are my age, to people that are within their 40s, that grew up with Rocky, people in their 60s. It's impacted, and I'm using the word impacted and massive, and it means so much to a lot of people. I'm using all of these phrases because it's what it describes. That's Rocky, and it's such a special thing to have not only an iconic character give you a bit of motivation, but it puts you in a stamp in time where it's, no matter where you were, 1976, you might have been one of the first people to go see Rocky in the cinemas. Rocky IV against the Russian, it makes a statement of USA versus Russia in that time, the Cold War. Rocky VI, he's 60 years old and he's got stuff left in the basement, and it's so impactful on people's lives, and it means a lot to him to get rid of that and make sure he's lived one more time. And never say never, never give up. You're never too old. It ain't over till it's over. To get to that, and you fight and you let everything out. It's not about winning, it's about going the distance, and you want to prove to yourself that you're capable of doing something. This is the little stories within Rocky. You've got the main story about love, and Sylvester Stallone's always said that Rocky isn't a fighting movie. It's not a boxing movie. It's not a sports movie. It's a love story. It's about him and Adrian living their life and coming against the obstacles. The obstacles being Apollo Creed twice, Mr. T, Ivan Drago, money problems, health problems. Rocky VI is proving to yourself that you are capable of doing anything. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as you're happy doing it, that's all that matters. There's an undertone in Rocky VI where you've got Stallone and playing Rocky, wanting to do one last fight to prove to yourself that you can go the distance, that you're capable of still doing anything you want if you put your mind to it, and age is just a number. But then there's the story of his son, where he's living in a job, living in a shadow, and not making the most of himself. He's living in the shadow of his dad, and he's there because of his name, and not embracing your name. Your name is so important, but it's what you make of it. It's not who you are, it's what you make of who you are. And that's the most precious thing about Rocky, is you can take away anything from it. And there is that iconic speech. And about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Winning isn't getting the W in a footy game, or winning isn't winning money on betting, or winning isn't the satisfaction of a victory. Winning is proving to yourself you're capable of doing that. The result is irrelevant. And that's the story of Rocky. And that's what makes it so great. That's what makes it so emotional. You get emotionally connected to Rocky. And 45 years of it is absolutely insane. Still to this day, people that are younger than the first Rocky movie sit here and say, yeah, I love it. And then people watch it for the first time. Or even if you haven't seen Rocky, you haven't seen the 6 movies, people have seen the speeches. They've seen how much it impacts, and they know about Rocky Balboa. That's how impactful he is. You don't even have to see the movie to know what it's about. Fighters fight. And As someone who has taken a lot from Rocky during mental health battles and during these moments where you feel down, you feel shit, and you want some inspiration, you need some motivation to just get through the day, I think about Rocky. I'll think about Rocky 3, where the one thing that's holding him back is fear. The fear of not living up to the expectations of people and not being able to prove to yourself that you're capable anymore because you're fearful that you've lost who you are. You don't know who you are anymore, and you're going to lose everything you've got because of it. But then you go out there and you train, you put your mind to it, you face those fears, and whether you win or lose, you'll know, and in the end, you did everything you could. And what happens? Within 3 rounds, he beats the living shit out of Mr. T and claims his title again. And that's the pure joy in watching Rocky, is the different stories of it. Rocky 1, simple. All I want to do is go the distance. You meet the love of your life. You're just a bum, but you're not a bum in your heart. You might look at it from the outside, but on the inside you have so much to give, so much love, so much care. You're a soft soul, and all you want to do is go the distance. You want to prove to yourself that you are capable of doing anything, win, lose, or draw. The first movie shows that, and once you get given the opportunity, you take it. Apollo Creed gives Rocky Balboa the opportunity to fight for the title. He doesn't win it, but he proves he goes the distance. And it's just so satisfying to see that someone, typical movies are the good guy ends up winning. In Rocky, we all win. We all leave the cinema feeling emotionally connected, and the antagonist that is Apollo Creed, we see the other side, what it's like to be number one, be victorious, but it's giving people the opportunity. And he does that. And it's just a story that you connect to. And Rocky movies can be watched on a surface level, but they're so much more than a surface level. And if you don't watch it diving deeper and taking all the little keynotes from it, you haven't really watched a Rocky movie. And that's the first one. The second one, you get the opportunity to win a title, but you don't do it. You get a bit of money from it, but you're living your life with the love of your life, Adrian. And in the end, all you know to do, you try and be someone else you're not, and all you know how to do it, how you live your life, is you got to be yourself. And what are you? What is Rocky? Rocky's a fighter. Outside the ring, inside the ring, he fights in life. And in the end, Adrian obviously falls sick, falls ill after having the baby, and she believes in him and says, win, Rocky, win. That's where the slogan comes from. And in the end, he goes and wins the title. He's had a kid. He's married to Adrian, and he goes and wins the title because he gets beaten to a pulp, and in the end still somehow fights through the whole 15 rounds and wins the title by 1 second. Rocky 3, you come along, you get a different challenge, and the challenge you don't know how to take, but you take it with a grain of salt and you think you're good enough, but then, as I said before, fears come in your mind. You don't know who you are, you don't really know what you're capable of anymore, and someone comes up who's full of confidence and beats you, and you got to think, how do I lay down and take it, or do I come back stronger? And you change your ways, you try and be different, but you still stick to what you know, and gets Apollo Creed to train him. And the message I took from that movie was that fears can take over you so much that you don't even believe who you are, and in the end you might lose everything, and you're scared of losing everything, but then you don't move forward. So then you got to challenge yourself, and challenge he does. Trains with Apollo, becomes a different fighter, and in the end beats Mr. T. And that's the beauty of it, is the fact that each movie has a different message, and that's the first 3 movies. You can see, you got going the distance in the first one. I'll just recap it. Going the distance. Then the second one is you have obstacles, but in the end, you can get beaten so much and still somehow come out on top. And that second movie in particular, I resonate with so well, because you get beaten to a pulp, physically, emotionally, and in the end, all of a sudden you're just standing there with a win under your belt. It's like, how the hell did you do that? How did you fight through everything that you dealt with and still somehow win? You can relate that to anything, an injury, mental health, a lost one in your family. It's just it becomes so emotionally connective, and anything that the storyline is or any sort of message that you take out of the movie resonates with you. You can relate to that. And the same with Rocky 3. Then you go into Rocky 4. It's all about regret. It's all about avenging. It's a different tone of a movie, Rocky 4, because it's the most popular. A robot Russian comes in, beats the shit out of your friend, Apollo Creed dies, and you've got to avenge him. You've got to do this. But you feel so remorseful and you regret everything and you feel guilty. You got to get rid of that guilt. And in the end, you're the one, after Apollo dies, gets beaten massively, and then in the last round, you overcome the challenge of fighting this animal, this beast that's been given upon us that we're all scared of, but you're taking that challenge. And you're going to be scared of a challenge, but if you still go after it, you don't know what's going to happen until you get into that ring. And I think that's the beauty of Rocky 4. It's the most popular. We saw recently that there's a director's cut of it. And I know that the director's cut has got sort of mixed views. I haven't seen it yet, but I think I can get the gist of what it's about. We know it's still the same movie, but it's different takes on it. It's a little bit deeper. It's a little bit more meaningful. When we know the original Rocky 4 it's a slap in your face movie that you're just riding along and you get to the fight. It's an MTV music video that's 85 minutes. But then you get to Rocky 5, the shittest movie of the lot. Rocky 5 is the worst Rocky movie. People say, all Rockies are great. They all have a message. No, Rocky 5 is terrible. And if you are a true Rocky fan, you will say Rocky 5 is terrible. I'm not saying that you sit there and watch Rocky 5 and you think this is shit. Why am I watching this? It's wrong. Rocky 5 is wrong. And I don't really like speaking about Rocky 5 because it just isn't a movie that I take much from. And I think it's a lot of, if anything, it's a father-son relationship. You focus too much on yourself, that you've got a family around you got to take care of, and you're scared of losing everything again. And it's not a movie that I particularly like, and not think a lot I take away from. But then I get to Rocky 6, Rocky Balboa. This is the movie for me that changed my life. This is the movie I watch every single time I feel down, every time I still want to take more and want motivation, because there's so many messages in that. There's obviously that, as I said before, the quote of it, and about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's the number one quote in any movie ever. Like that's a mantra on a wall, in a gym, in your man cave, a wallpaper on your screen. It's everywhere that you can take, and you look out and you get motivated. Are you willing to take the hits? But it's also a mental battle. And I think this is where Rocky 6 relates with me a lot. Because Rocky Balboa is all about overcoming the odds. It doesn't matter how old you are, or, the stuff in the basement. And obviously we know Adrian dies before we get to see Rocky 6. And that's a storyline that Stallone went with. And I think that's a message in itself. Like, Adrian dies. He's lost everything. Paulie's still there. His son, he doesn't have a connection with. And he's got stuff in the basement. And that stuff in the basement, he sits here. It's anxiety. It's depression. It's not feeling worth anything. It's not being good enough. But you overcome that. You set your mind to something and you do it. And that's the beauty of it. You go through the movie, your relationship with your son is falling apart, and you decide to fight, and you keep fighting, and you just do something that you got to do. And he does. He fights Mason Dixon, world champ at the time. Everyone hates him, and even Mason Dixon's having his own troubles. He's not worthy of being a champion. And that's when it all comes to play. Mason Dixon wins the fight, but it's not about winning the fight. It's about going the distance and getting the stuff out the basement. The beast is gone. And, the other quote I took from it was, I didn't really know how it was supposed to be this way. I didn't know it was supposed to be this hard. And a lot of people rate that, and that's something I connect my mental health with, that quote, and it's emotional. It is, because it's such an important quote in the movie that from then on it's all about proving to yourself again. And it combines every single message of all the movies, going the distance, obstacles and challenges that you've faced, fighting fears, overcoming the odds, and proving to yourself that you are capable still, even though at your age, and age is just a number. And then obviously the creeds are a bit different, because creeds are all about creed, and still Stallone proves, even got nominated for an Oscar and won the Golden Globe for Rocky Balboa in Creed, the first one, the best supporting actor. Creed 2 was still fantastic because he got to finish the story with his son. And I'm afraid that's probably going to be the end of Rocky Balboa, but the story in itself is amazing. And just to sum up all the Rockies together, I don't know how to put this in a quote. I don't think I will put it in a quote. I'll just give it in a story. Rocky, to me, is a symbol of fighting for something that's special to you. It doesn't matter the message. It doesn't matter what it's about or what the story is or what you're fighting for. If you're fighting for something, then go for it. Put everything on the line. Just believe in yourself and take everything that comes your way. Take the hits. Embrace everything and prove something to yourself. If you prove something to yourself first and foremost, you don't have to prove anything to anyone else. And Rocky's a fighter. Rocky's an everyday guy that just wanted to go the distance. And over the course of 45 years, he went the distance, all right? He went the distance into our hearts. That's kind of cute. But he went into many of people's minds, and people don't even have to like the Rocky movies to be inspired by him. And it's inspirational to watch, and that's why I love Rocky so much. And that's why 45 years, and 45 years of a story that just continues to give is a point it's a proven point that you're capable of creating something that lasts forever, and Rocky will last forever. So, to conclude this podcast about 45 years of Rocky Balboa and Stallone's magnificent story, I'll rank the Rocky movies in order of my favourite. So, first one, Rocky Balboa. Second one, Rocky. Third is Rocky 2. Fourth is Rocky 4. 3 is Rocky 5. Rocky 3 is 5th. And then Rocky 5 is 6th. The top 5 are incredibly close. The Rocky Balboa is a clear standout. Rocky 6 being number 1. But Rocky 5 is low. And then the two Creeds probably come in front of Rocky 5. I just think the stories of the original Rockies are so much better than the Creeds, but Creed is definitely a story I'd be watching because it's, again, there's a lot of messages in that movie, and it's an amazing accomplishment for Stallone, and that's why he's my favourite actor. He's created Rambo as well, The Expendables, so many other crazy movies that he's in, but yeah, that's why Rocky to me is so special, and I hope a lot of people, whoever listens to this, if they're going to take away something from all of this, is if you haven't seen Rocky, watch it, because it's not because it's a great movie and a great movie franchise. It's because if you need something, if you need a bit of motivation, that's what it's going to give you. It's going to give you motivation. It's going to give you a perspective that it doesn't matter how hard you can hit, you'll get hit harder by life, and it's what you can take and keep moving forward. So thank you very much for listening to this podcast, a little special one. I think this might be one of the last ones for the year, but I wanted to give the story about how Rocky's, what it means to me, and how much of an impact it's had on my life, and how many other people have had an impact from watching all the Rocky movies as well, because it's a damn right good movie. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new. Listen on Spotify and all of the other apps that you can listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for listening as well. And we'll see, and you'll hear from me. I never can get the sign off right. You'll hear from me and see me very soon. Thank you.